Welcome to ET253 Week 10. In this video I would like to describe the use of RIP protocol version 1 and version 2, and I explain the differences and explain the wired and wireless networks, define the cluster networks, and then also I go over lab 11 and lab 12 for you, and then we visit submissions in Canvas. For the RIP protocols, let's say I have router 01, I'm in privileged mode. I'm going to go to network section, this way I can list network. That's the way we're going to apply the different versions here. So I'm going to go ahead and type, I'm going to write here, but we'll be typing in packet tracer. So config T or configure terminal. My prompt will change to global configuration mode, like so. At this point, I'm going to go ahead type router RIP. So we're going to go into network section. This is the place we list the networks. So R01 is going to change to config dash router. That's new prompt. At this point you list the networks, network this, network this, network. But before we do that, what I would like to do, I would like to change the RIP version. By default we are using version 1. Now we need to change to version 2. Just type version space 2. As soon as we press enter, our new prompt is not going to change, but we're going to be aware that from now on we're going to be using version 2. Why would I do that? The reason we want to do that is RIP version 1 does not really support subnetted IP addresses. Now you're going to say, well, we've been using it. Yes, a new router, but older router, you cannot use that at all. So to stay safe, to make sure that you don't run into any troubles, then we just change it to version 2, this so we don't have to worry about it. RIP version 1 doesn't support subnetted IPs. That's why we need to change from RIP version 1 to RIP version 2, from RIP 1 to RIP 2. Now let's talk about wired and wireless networks, and I have a topology here. There you go. This is actually in the lab 12. We'll go ahead and talk about this more. This is a topology for lab 12, and as you notice over here we have from the right side we have a router 1 connected to outside world. This is the cloud, and then this one provides internet going through the green area, this network, which is LAN 1, LAN 1 right here, 192.168.1.0/24. Now this interface FA00 of router 1 has an IP address of what? 192.168.1.1. Inside here we have all wired networks. So from here we're connected to FA01, it means port 1 of the switch. From server we connected to port 2, from laptop 1 connected to port 5, PC 1 connected to port 4, and then also this access point is connected to port 3 of the switch, all wired. And then we have LAN 2 right below that, the blue area, LAN 2, which is 192.168.10.0/24, is a wireless. And shortly I'm going to go ahead and explain in lab 12 that how you're going to be setting up all of this to work. So I just want to show you an example of a wired and wireless network. And also cluster is the one, if you get combine bunch of routers and switches in network, we can combine them to show some cluster form like this icon. I can take the whole thing and then cluster it. So I'm going to show you in a minute how to cluster and uncluster network. Now let's go ahead take a look at lab 11, design and implement variable length subnet masking, VLSM. You've been doing VLSMs, quite a few of them, that you created a table and then you created the topology in packet tracer and labeled them so far. So we're gonna put that in use in this lab. Here's lab 11 over here, and you're gonna need 2 routers, 2621XM, and 4 switches, 2960, we're going to use these switches, but we're not going to configure them yet. And then you need 4 PCs and console cable if you need it, and also for sure Ethernet cables. Okay, so you are given one class B IP address 182.16.51.0/22. This is one branch left. You're familiar with this one, so you're going to take over from here, and then you're going to go ahead distribute IP addresses for 215 users, 124 users, 61, 28, and 2 users or hosts. Now with the last 2 over here is point to point. It means connecting one router to another. So very simple, a lot easier and less than what you've been doing. So based on all the VLSM you've been doing is you have been creating table, and also you have been creating the topology and well labeled correctly. You have done it so far. Now this time we're going to go one step further. We're going to configure the routers and PCs, and then we're going to check for connectivity. Okay, so first you're going to go ahead find the subnet address with the CIDR notation for 215 users, and a subnet mask with dotted decimal format, and same thing for 124, 61, and 28 and 2. Make sure you don't make mistakes over here, because later on you're going to have an issue if you do. So you're going to go ahead transfer this one and to this distributed over here. For example, you're going to have this network as a network 1, this one network 2, network 3, network 4, and then point to point will be network 5. So for each network you're going to use the FA00 here. You're going to put, of course you're going to have the network address here. You're going to put .1 for here. For PC, let's say .2. For this one, for FA01, you put .1, .2, .1, .2. And then over here for router 2, FA00, you're going to put .1, and then for PC4 you're going to put .2. It's very simple. Okay, so you have all separate networks. Once you apply the IP address for each PC, and also you need to provide the default gateway for each PC. For example, default gateway for PC1, if the PC1 is .2, default gateway will be for FA00, which we talked about at point 1 or .1. For PC2 will be .1 over here from FA01 IP address. Same thing PC3, .1 for FA01 here, and also for PC4, .1 for FA00. Once you configure all that, you can go ahead. Next step is you're going to go ahead complete this table, make sure it's done correctly, and then you're going to come over here. Section B is just talks about just the labeling and configuring the devices that I just talked about. Then it comes down over here to make sure that everything is done correctly. You're going to do 3 tests over here. First, you're going to go and check from PC1 to see if you can ping your its default gateway. Same thing from PC2 to check and test its default gateway. And also you're going to go ahead use PC1 and see if you can ping all the way to PC4. If everything's successful, then you are done. Otherwise you need to go back and troubleshoot. Once you're done, you're going to go ahead and save the packet tracer as lab 11. You're going to check this box and then come back and then check this box and then save as lab 11 this worksheet. So you can have 2 files to submit. Now let's go ahead and talk about lab 12, wired and wireless and cluster network. I'm going to go into packet tracer. Here I have lab 12 worksheet on the right side, and also a configured topology in packet tracer on the left side. I'm going to go ahead give you a little bit more explanation. All the steps are done for you in this worksheet, but I need to kind of give you a little highlights of certain areas that you need to pay attention to over here. So first of all, this cluster, this circle in yellow, it's collapsed and is shown as cluster. How do you do that? I'm going to go ahead and show you that. Okay, and as I mentioned you're gonna need 2621XM routers and switches here, and also you're gonna need the wireless router WRT300N over here, and these are all required materials. Okay, and part 2 is we need to build this topology. We make sure that we have the router over here. From FA00 router, we're gonna have a direct connection to port 1 of switch, which is FA01. Okay, so that's what it says over here. From server to port 2, so these are all wired, and then from this access point to port 3, from PC1 to port 4, laptop 1 to port 5. Those are the direct connections. So you are gonna use a regular cable because you are connecting 2 different devices. So once you do that, part 3 is we're gonna create the cluster ISP here. So to do that, here this is how you're gonna do it. You're gonna go ahead, highlight the area that you wanna collapse them or create a cluster. So over here you have an icon here. If you hover over it, says create new cluster, or shift U will do that too. You click on it, it is a cluster now. That network became this. So you can go ahead, put the label over here so you know what that network is. Now how do you undo it, uncluster it? Okay, what you need to do is you need to click on delete button, or you can go ahead, if you click on it, it's gonna show you that what's in there. Okay, undo it. So if you highlight it, okay, if you highlight it and then delete key, that's one way, or there's a delete button on the top that you're not seeing it right now. If you click on that or delete key, it's gonna give you some choices here. It says you want to delete the cluster, it's gonna wipe everything. If you go, and then you have a choice of uncluster. If you do that, everything comes back, but you have extra label there. You need to delete that. You can always take it back too. You can also highlight everything you want to cluster it. So you click on cluster, there you go. Whole topologies now became this. Okay, so since you clustered the whole thing, it'll be a lot easier to get everything back. All you have to do, click on it, everything's back. Undo, it goes back over here. That's one way. Another way is you can highlight it and delete. It's going to ask you want to uncluster, you want to delete the whole thing. You don't want to delete the whole thing, so you're going to uncluster and everything's back. This is just the clustering and unclustering. Next is we need to go ahead, go to part 4, which is the important part. We are going to configure this router because this is the middleman that connects everything from left side to outside world on the right side. So I went down and did all the steps for you, but one thing that I highlighted here is very important. It's going to be new to you for most of you. We're going to have this router to provide services as a DHCP. It means any computer that wants to connect to it and wants the randomly picked IP address is going to provide that. On the global, in a position of global configuration mode, I typed IP DHCP space excluded dash address from 192.168.1.1 all the way to 192.168.1.20. I'm setting aside this range for static IP addresses. Okay, it means I can use it for printer, I can use it for server. I'm going to show you that in a little bit. Okay, I'm going to name that pool as ET253. And then I'm going to come back and identify what network IP address I'm going to have for this router, which will be FA00 is going to provide services to the left side. So that is the one 192.168.1.0, and then 255.255.255.0. Be careful though, this is a network address, it's not the regular IP address. So we are identifying this router, this side is going to play as a network, provide the green area, services to green area. And then we're going to go ahead, type DNS-server 192.168.1.3. What does that mean? It means this guy here, which is the server, is going to have a .3 address. This is going to provide DNS server is connected to the router. It's gonna get the service from outside. It's gonna set up as a server here, not only DHCP and also DNS. It means anything from or any devices from this point on is going to go through the server, it's going to go through the router and outside world, like internet access. I'm going to show you that in a little bit. Okay, and then you're going to finish up these configuration. So also we need to configure the S00 to connect to outside here, and also it's DCE. We're going to provide clock rate. You're familiar with all these, so make sure you get this section done. That will be your step 1. Step 2 is the server. Okay, you click on server on the right side, so click on server, go to desktop, IP configuration, select static. I'm going to go to configuration, to go to desktop, and then it says IP configuration. Already done this for you. All of these not for you, I'm just to show you. Okay, these are all done over here. As you can see, that kind of matches. So not only we have the IP address for the server, and then that IP address also is going to be a DNS server here, and then default gateway, of course, that'll be FA00 of the router, and then default subnet mask here. Okay, so that is for configuring the server, and then there are some services there. So if I click on select the services tab right here, on the left side you see all these services like internet access, DHCP, DHCP version 6, TFTP, DNS, and so forth. There are a lot of services over here. Now, the one that we're interested in, I have given you all the steps here, that we're going to go into DNS. So we're going to click on DNS here. On the right side, we need to provide name www.et253.edu, which is kind of web address. Okay, so you type that in there, and then add it, save it. So already I've done this, www.et253.edu. Okay, and then the second one is without the wwws. It means if a person types et253.edu, it's gonna work, or with www.et253.edu should work. So that's why you have, when you access the website, you type microsoft.com, or you can type www.microsoft.com. They already have this in database, so either way you can get in. This is the service that under DNS. Okay, and then we need to click on HTTP, which is internet access. Click on HTTP, make sure they're on. One is left side is HTTP, the other one is HTTPS. This is the much secure way of accessing the internet, so both must be on. Okay, and then this all kind of shown. This is DNS, this is the DHCP and DHCP and HTTP. And then step 3 is the configure laptop 1 and PC 1. Okay, I'm going to close this one. So laptop 1 and PC 1, they're going to be similar configurations. So I have given you all the steps here. Okay, on the laptop 1, we're going to go to desktop tab and then IP configuration as usual. Desktop, IP configuration, and over here make sure you selected DHCP. So a good idea is to make sure that DHCP works. Sometimes you may not see anything here. It's kind of gray, it means you didn't input it. It's grabbed it automatically. You click on the static, it's going to wipe it. Go back to DHCP, wait a few seconds, it's going to go and grab new IP address. So as you notice, that's a 21. Remember, we reserved from 1 to 20 for static IP address. This is what you see. 21 is very first one for DHCP that this PC1 is using. Now you can do the same thing with PC1. This was the laptop one. Let's go to PC1. PC1 is going to be same thing. You go to desktop, IP configuration over here, go to static, click on DHCP, it's going to go to server, and it's going to grab 22, next available one. You see that? These are all DHCP. Okay, so once you configure those, straightforward. I even put down over here on a picture for you. All right, now we need to go to LAN 2. That was LAN 1. Green area was the LAN 1 which is 192.168.1.0 is network. Now we're going to go to LAN 2 192.168.10.0/24, and green area was all wired network. Now this is the wireless network. It means we need to configure this access point carefully. This way these devices can connect. I have provided all step by step. You can go through that, but one thing that I need to talk about, just the access point, a little tricky there. Okay, I'm going to open the access point. So we're going to go to access point over here, and it says go to config, right here, config, and then go to this. It's going to display the W01. If not, you need to make sure that it says WR01, and that would be the name. And then we're going to click on the internet. So right here, internet, and we're going to pick static. Okay, I have already done this. Static. When you select the static, you need to type these IP addresses. So IP address for the access point is .2. As you can see, it says internet.2. So .2, 255.255.255.0. Default gateway is the IP address for the router FA00, remember. And then DNS, which comes from the server. So in case if I want to access, let's say from a laptop 2, I want to access the ET253 website, then that's 1.3 is going to be allowing me to go to the server and access that. So that is about the static. And then we're going to go to LAN, click on LAN, and then go ahead and provide these IP addresses, which I have done already. As you can see, that kind of matching. And then next we need to go to wireless right here, step by step. On the wireless, we want to make sure that SSID is 123. You can use anything you want on your own, but over here is that's what lab says. Let's go ahead and do it that way. This way I can check it. And then authentication. Under authentication, we're going to pick WPA2-PSK, and then also we're going to provide as a PSK passphrase class 123 right there. I have provided everything. And then in terms of encryption type, AES, and then we need to go to GUI tab right here, GUI, GUI, graphical user interface. In here we're going to go to setup. We are already in setup, and then internet setup right here, internet setup right there. And then we need to go to automatic configuration, DHCP2. We're going to change it, actually replace it with static IP. By default usually is on the automatic. We need to pick the static IP address. As soon as you do that, it's going to provide you this space over here. You need to provide the internet IP address, which is .2 is coming from the green area, then subnet mask, default gateway from FA00 of the previous router, and then DNS, same thing. You're familiar with this, okay? Now next step is network setup. Okay, so network setup is right below that over here. Now we're going to set up the network on the blue area. For the wireless area, we're going to use the IP address of 192.168.10.1 right here, and then subnet mask over here is 255.255. We need to put this one 250 default subnet mask, and then we come back and make sure that this is enabled, just step by step. And then over here we're gonna say, okay, we're gonna start the IP address from 20 to 100. That's what you want to do it. Okay, you can pick any range you want. Over here we're gonna go ahead and pick the 20 to 100, and then also provide the DNS server, same .3. Here's the one I put them in red, but sometimes students miss it or forget. Save settings, okay, and I give you a little note over here, save setting again. Problem with that is it's easy for students to forget, is because it's way in the bottom. You have to scroll all the way down and click save settings. Otherwise it's not going to save all your configuration. So make sure do it 2-3 times, click on that button, everything will be saved. Okay, and then next under GUI we're going to go to wireless and go to basic wireless, which is already in there. Then make sure that we have these settings there. So SSID 123, and go ahead save it. Okay, guess where the save is? way in the bottom, right there. So these are the part that I wanted to make sure that I talk about it. Otherwise, it is very easy to miss it. Okay, and I'm showing you over here. Now we need to go to the wireless security. It says wireless security right here, not that security, wireless security. And to make sure that we have these settings are there. WPA2 personal right there. Select that, and then AES and class 1, 2, 3. Save. Guess where the save is? Way in the bottom. Click on Save Settings, and then you come down. I'm just showing you that those settings. We go to GUI and administration. Administration is right here, and then over here this is a password for the. You're going to type ET253 and ET253 twice to confirm it, and then save again. Save is in the bottom. Okay, so. And then you keep going through this one. Now we're going to configure the devices, laptop 2, printer, and all that. You just follow the steps. You need to provide the network card for it, and these are the information about the network card and settings. Make sure that they are not setting to static. It's going to be dynamic. It's going to be, they're going to pick IP address from the access point. Laptop 2, let's go to laptop 2 over here, physical. We're going to go ahead and find that card right here, WPC 300N. If it doesn't have it, you need to turn it off, put one in there, and then turn it back on. Next, we need to go to config. Click on config and settings, right there, settings. In the settings, make sure that we have these name laptop 2. I already have it there. If not, we need to type that in there. And then next we need to go to wireless 0 right here. Make sure we have these settings are there. Okay, so SSID 1, 2, 3. This has to match with the access point, otherwise it's not gonna recognize it. All right, and the authentication, same thing. And with the class, yeah, these are all the same information we provided for access point. They have to match. So you're going to go ahead and provide these information there, and then we're going to go to desktop and IP configuration. Make sure we select the DHCP this time. Click on static, go back to DHCP again, and you should go to router and grab 21. You see over here 1021. It's going to grab that. All you need to do is record these over here. IP address, subnet mask is all 255 and 0, and then default gateway will be 10.1, and then you need to put the full IP addresses, and also DNS will be 192.168.1.3. And the same way you're going to configure for other devices like printer 1 and printer 3. And you're going to answer some questions over here to check, see if the website works in terms of ET253, do you know that? Just answer, is it successful or not? You're going to answer all of that, and very straightforward. And once everything's done, save this packet tracer as lab 12, and then also check this box, complete this worksheet, and save it as lab 12. And then also these color circles, you have to do them to kind of show the region. So from now on, we are going to be able to section this out. We need to separate them, kind of show them which is which. Okay, without the circle, it's not gonna be really be clear what we're talking about. Okay, so we have the yellow region over here, which is the ISP cluster network. The green area is the wired network, and the blue area is the wireless network. Now, you don't have to stay with the same colors, as long as there are 3 different colors, and then make sure they're not too dark. Make it kind of pick some lighter colors. Okay, let's go ahead and visit the submission section in Canvas. Here's week 10, and the submission section, you have 2 more of those VLSMs you need to practice on, exactly like VLSM B1 that you worked on. So let me go ahead and open one more time these. So I'm going to go download, similar to first one. So you love these 180.12.214.0/18. So you're going to go ahead and pick this IP address and then distribute that those IP addresses to the group of 240, 230, 120, 109, 14 users, and also 6 users. So you're going to have about 6 point-to-point connections from 6 routers connecting to cloud. And also you're going to create the topology in Packet Tracer. Now VLSM B3, same as the ones that you've done before. Here's the lab 11 and 12 that I went over it. Okay? Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and end it there, and I will see you next week.